Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Music podcast. We're your hosts, T. Davis and
Bree Warwick.
Yeah. So, this is our first episode.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be clunky.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to be the smoothest thing in the world.
Yeah, if you just put that out there, it's automatically going to be better.
Yeah. So they say.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel better.
Our topic for today is 6 months in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago, we closed our business,
Uprooted
sold our
life.
house, and moved 600 miles from eastern North Carolina in Goldsboro to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But before we get into the good, the bad, and the music, I think we should take a second to introduce ourselves, just so that the people can get a chance to know us a little bit better. So, Bree, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the folks what are the Cliff's Notes of your background.
Inquiring minds do want to know. So, I'm Bree. I am Tyler's wife, but in addition to other titles I have, I am a speech pathologist. I am a vocal coach, and that is the bulk of what I do. Cat mom. Yeah, that's a title I proudly hold as well. So, yeah, I work largely with teen singers, some adults. I find that for whatever reason, I just kind of happen to have gotten a lot of teen singers. And adults in therapy is what I typically work with. And I work in a hospital here in Nashville now, so in an inpatient rehab facility. So that's kind of my big background. I like the trachs and the vents and strokes and dementia and all the complicated stuff. So
Now, you said speech pathologist, but for the layperson out there who doesn't know what a speech pathologist is, speech therapist, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question too, because I think sometimes it does warrant further explanation, because when a lot of people find out that I'm a speech therapist, they just assume that I work with kids, and kids with different speech sound disorders and autism, which I'm 100% qualified to do, but that's not the bulk of my work. I actually work a lot with cognitive rehabilitation and swallowing therapy, and speech issues, but usually after something like a stroke, traumatic brain injury. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. So I'm Tyler Davis. On stage, I go by T. Davis. I am an artist, singer, songwriter, / producer. And I have been playing music professionally since I was 17 years old, and I will be 35 this year. So I've played in bands. I've played as a solo artist. I played up and down the East Coast. And I do write and record my own stuff.
Which is where we are right now. We're in our house, but this is also our recording studio that we're sitting in that we have in our house. So
yeah. Yeah, I do like soul Americana kind of stuff. So really love, Bob Dylan, Jason Isbell, Chris Stapleton. But I grew up listening to everything. So I take inspiration from Otis Redding and Stevie Wonder and Al Green, and
which is kind of how we connected too, because we have different musical tastes, but also there's a lot of overlaps in the Venn diagram of our musical interests.
Yeah.
And kind of how we grew up, but also things that we're interested in too. So
yeah, that's like the Cliff's Notes, I guess, of our respective careers thus far. And you want to tell our meet cute story?
Oh,
that's kind of gross.
So gross.
Yeah. So we met. So I was performing in Goldsboro, North Carolina, which is near Fremont, North Carolina, which is where kind of my.
Which still no one knows where you're talking about.
It's
so Raleigh.
It's an hour east of Raleigh.
It's near Raleigh.
And Bree was kind of going through your divorce and stuff.
Yeah, I was not having a great time in life. I was in my early 30s. I'm almost 39 now. So this would have been, nearly a decade ago. I mean, it's coming up almost a decade ago, which I can't even imagine. But yeah, I was not having a great time. I was going through a divorce. which is never fun. And even though mine was pretty amicable, but for anybody, when you have that, great separation, it's tough. And I was going, like, many single white females, I was going to eat a pizza alone was my grand plan of the night.
So
and
you're going to eat your feelings.
I was going to eat my feelings in carbohydrates and mozzarella. And on the way to the pizza place, I literally just heard this music and I heard this voice. And I think you were doing Earned It. I think you were singing The Weeknd. But to me, I was like, oh, it would be really nice to just sit and listen to some music right now. And I literally just like followed the sound of the voice, because where he was playing, they would always put a speaker outside.
Yeah. I was playing at Jay's Sushi and Burger Bar.
So great marketing on their end, because it worked. I literally just followed the voice like the Pied Piper.
Yeah.
And it was tea.
I was performing there, and she came in and sat down at the sushi bar, like right across from where I was set up and performing. Mm-hmm. And I was doing, like I said, I was really into Otis Redding. I was doing a bunch of soul stuff. So I was doing Otis Redding, and I noticed that she kind of like turned around and perked up and got excited when I did that. And I was like, yeah, she's got to be cool. So I think you stayed for like an hour or so. You ate at the like sushi at the bar, and then you left.
I just stayed by myself. Yeah.
And then when you left, I think I was like, hey, what's your name? Because I was like, she's hot. And
and sad. She's hot and sad is what she was.
Yeah. But no, I thought you were really cute. I thought it was cool that you were into the music that I was enjoying playing. Because, at a restaurant gig, I had a lot of flexibility because I was doing a solo act. I could play what I wanted. And at the restaurant gig, when you're kind of like secondary to the eating experience, people aren't, requesting, like they don't want to hear Journey while they have their dinner and talk to their family. So I could play a lot of what I really liked, which is more laid back, soulful stuff there.
Yeah.
So it was really cool that you were paying attention to it.
And I think, I think I have a bit of an old soul. I think you do too. Mm-hmm. Again, like for things where we're different, but that's definitely somewhere where we're the same. And so I think for many people in my age range, especially girls, like not a lot of girls like me have like the best of Otis Redding, like in a CD in their Honda, and I did. Yeah. So I think, that was, and like Whiter Shade of Pale. And like you were just doing a lot of classics, Into the Mystic, things that I
Van.
would, things that I love to listen to for sure.
So that's how we met. And it's disgusting. It's like out of a Paul Rudd movie, but that is what happened, and we are not making it up. There were, I think there might have been witnesses. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure somebody witnessed it. And I think that's one thing about us too, and kind of like, and I didn't even think about this when we were naming it, but the good, the bad, and the music. Tyler and I talk about everything like all the time. Probably for some who in their relationship, it might even be considered like ad nauseum if they're not like highly communicative, because we just talk about everything. And like we'll have conversations where I will say out loud, like, I'm so uncomfortable. But I think that's just us. That's how we connect.
Yeah. So speaking of like having to talk about stuff, let's get to the subject, which is, like I said at the beginning of the pod, 6 months ago, we sold our house, got married after being together for
over 7 years.
Yeah,
over 7.
And closed the brick and mortar business that we had spent the previous 4 years building.
Yeah.
During and in the aftermath of COVID. Mm-hmm. So why did we move here? Why did we do this?
And
I'm not being, that's not a rhetorical question.
Yeah, no. We ask ourselves sometimes daily, why did we do this? And I feel like this is something that was just years in the making. And to kind of go back just briefly on when we first got together, and I love talking about this because when we talk to other couples or even individuals, I think this part of the story is important. We talked about moving to Nashville when we first met.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I, being newly divorced, did not feel comfortable with. It took me years to feel like, and it's not like I was never with you. I always felt with you. It's not like I was, seeing 10 guys at a time. I wasn't. I was always with you. But at the same time, it felt like I needed space to just breathe a little bit. And at that point, pre-COVID, I feel like it's becoming like BCAD. It's like pre-COVID. I did not feel like I was in a place mentally to do that, and was personally dealing with a lot of like anxiety and just a lot of mental health issues. And so then COVID and you lost all of your work.
Yeah.
Gigs were gone. I'm sure a lot of people
in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of artists, especially listening to this, can appreciate that. But for me, on the flip side of that, working in healthcare, well, I wasn't exactly shy of having work. So we were still financially okay. But both of our mental health, not awesome. And for kind of different reasons. That you had no work and were learning to like mulch.
Yeah.
And like paint fireplaces in our house. And then for me, it was just that complete caregiver stress of working in healthcare. And so that's where Gold City House of Music, which is our brick and mortar business, kind of came alive, which was when I was locked up with COVID and away from you in our house for 10 days before the vaccines were out and all of that. And I just knew we needed to do something different. And we were just I remember this so clearly, laying on the floor, like staring at our ceiling in the living room once we could finally be together again after that 10-day period, and think about what makes us happy. What do we want to do? And I feel like that was such a pivotal moment where things just really started to develop. And even though it took years until we got to this point, but we had Gold City House of Music for 4 years. And we got to your show, which was October 2023 is when we started to put it together.
Yeah.
And we realized, and to give a little backstory, maybe you want to talk about what that show was for people that don't know.
So my most recent album is a live album from a concert that we put on at the Paramount Theater in downtown Goldsboro. And I had for years wanted to put a band together and do like a legit, ticketed show at a theater. And in October of 2023, I was like, no.
We were like walking down the street, and I feel like we were just talking about it. We had like a coffee. It was a beautiful day. We were just walking down the street, and we walked past the Paramount Theater in Goldsboro, and we were like, let's just go in. We're going to ask questions. We're going to go in. We're going to see how much it costs, because we didn't even know. We didn't know numbers. And I'm between the two of us, I'm very much the number person, and he's the big picture dreamer. And I'm like, okay, let's be realistic. And how much money do we require to make this thing happen? And we took I think a photo or a video of you like in the balcony of that theater, and something to the effect of like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Like we made a declarative.
So we decided we were going to do it, and I put a band together. We rehearsed. We worked up, I would say 70% of that show was original material from our first 2 albums. And we did some, like really cool cover versions of some of our favorite stuff. And we got a good multi-track recording of it. So I'll put it out as a live album. Like you can find that in the show notes. There'll be links to, our websites and my music and stuff. But it was like the most fun I've ever had performing.
And because I'm like, the brass tacks tactical person between the two of us, I feel like it's worth mentioning as well, because sometimes when I listen to podcasts and they're like, oh, it was the thing and then it just happened and it was magical. And we didn't realize how much money that was going to take. And it was a 5-figure number for sure.
Yes.
Low fives. Fives.
So yeah, you hear people talking about putting shows together, and like it takes a lot of resources. That whole show was truly a community effort.
Mm-hmm.
We had sponsors who like ended up being responsible for me being able to pay the band members to learn the songs and like rehearse.
Yeah, and donating like print material so that we could
Like
advertise.
T-shirts.
Yeah.
And the flyers and the posters and the programs. And so, yeah, I mean, like, shout out to AccuCopy in downtown Goldsboro, North Carolina.
The Laughing Owl.
The Laughing Owl, the Alamo.
Yeah. They were goats.
And our lovely photographer,
Casey Mazengo,
friend,
Big
and
Blue
marketing
Couch.
strategist.
Yeah.
Casey Mazengo of Big Blue Couch Media.
Yeah.
And so it was a big community effort, and it just, I don't know, it inspired me to like strive for more because I realized that I could do it. And we did that show. And honestly, like I had been performing in North Carolina for so long, like doing music full time in that area. The lease was coming up on our business.
Mm-hmm.
And we were either going to like extend that for 2 more years or do something else. And it was like, I just know that for me, I had to try to move to an industry town and do something bigger. At least obviously that's the goal, is to do something bigger, because it would have left me with a lot of regret if I just stayed where I was and where we were comfortable and didn't know.
When we were doing that show, it was completely exhausting. I wasn't even performing, obviously, but just doing all like the behind the scenes things. But that whole day, I remember like we didn't plan anything else. Like I had students that were like, "Oh, can I like switch a lesson to this day?" And I'm like, "Nope." It was like all hands on deck. That's all that we were doing for a solid 24 hours. And I have never felt more like in tune to our purpose though.
Yeah.
Like that whole day. And it was, yes, exhausting, but it was so awesome at the same time, where it felt like you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And Miles Davis, our cat, just joined the podcast. If you heard a meow in the background, and he's sitting on my lap. But seeing you with such a large audience, which in a restaurant, 50 people, but 250 people at the Paramount, which for some may not sound like a big number, but it was the biggest of what you've maybe done so far.
It was the biggest,
and only there for you.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason people were there.
Yeah, there was no opener. We just did like a 2.5 hour show.
There was no restaurant. There's no opener. Like you are the draw. You are the purpose of people being in that theater. And just all of the support and just like the good vibes and running backstage and like making sure you're good, the band's good. And just all of that was just so fulfilling. And I remember the next day feeling like it was like a happiness hangover. And we haven't drunk in a long time, so it wasn't alcohol related, I promise.
Yeah.
But I was just so overjoyed. And it was like experiencing that. We couldn't settle for anything less.
Yeah, I think like, that was the clue that like, okay, I feel like we have the ability to do bigger things, and it was time to just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for the entire year of 2024, like doing the preparation for that show, that New Year's Eve, we decided that the last drink we took on New Year's Eve was going to be the last drink that we took until 2025.
Yeah. And we never had, I would never say that we had a drinking problem. You would drink more than I would. It was pretty commonplace for you, I think, just because of, I don't want to say how you grew up, but it's like musician vibe, right? Like, you're out at a restaurant, you're playing at a gig, people are buying you beers.
Or you get free beer.
Right. They give you free beer. And especially when you're like 21, you're like, oh, this is amazing, because you're broke and you're getting a bunch of free alcohol.
Craft beer, yeah.
Right. You're getting a bunch
You're playing at a brewery and they give you all the beer you can drink, like you're going to drink it,
Right. You're like, yeah, here's a bunch of free alcohol for sure. But we knew we would have to be mentally at a next level to achieve all of the things that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And getting rid of alcohol was a big one. And I was usually up at around 5 And at the time in the house we were living in, we had a gym in the garage that we'd put in since COVID.
Thanks to COVID.
Yeah. Again, so many thanks to COVID that we had put in since COVID. And so I would get up before I would go to the nursing home to do my therapy job. He would follow in behind me once I finished, and he was up reading. I mean, you read every day, every day, and you would sit in the studio all day just writing songs.
Yeah. So I think not drinking, it's like I said, it's not that we had, like anywhere near like a problem like that was like alcoholism or anything. But I think that it's very easy to get into a habit of when you feel uncomfortable or you have a rough day and it's due to you not living up to your full potential or due to circumstances that because of where you are out of your control. It's really easy to just have a beer or two and like let it go. But when you don't have that, crutch is a very strong
It's like
word.
numbing. It's like a numbing agent,
When you don't have that thing to take the edge off and you have to just sit in those feelings, it makes you want to change your circumstances.
Yeah, we had multiple.
And there were several moments in 2024.
Multiple events in 2024 where we were just so uncomfortable. And I really don't think, and you never know, I doubt though that if we had still been drinking or doing, making other choices, not getting up early, not really putting our best foot forward, I don't think we would be where we are today. And there's times where I look around and I'm like, damn, did we really do the thing? Like we did the hard thing. And our lease was coming up at the end of 2024 for our brick and mortar business, or technically beginning of 2025, I guess, for our brick and mortar business. And it had been a really long 4 years with that business. And it was so joyous. And I think in the small town that we lived in, it was a bit of a beacon of light for a lot of people. We taught a lot of young people that, for lack of a better word, often felt like outsiders. I had a lot of theater kids, who tend to be, I always say that lovingly, my weirdos. I love my weirdos. I love them. I think they're fantastic.
Well, I think being in a rural town
And
in
you're
the
different,
South,
and you're just different.
we were trying to provide an environment where marginalized people of all backgrounds would feel welcome and at home.
Yeah.
And in a judgment-free place.
Right.
So,
as I call them, weird, but I say that so lovingly.
no,
Yeah.
the cool kind of like the
It's a cool weird.
The
It's a
kids
cool
that are
weird.
not going to peak in high school.
Correct. It's the kids that are super artsy
And
intelligent and they just
and-
think different
and
than the environment
empathetic.
they're in, and empathetic, so empathetic.
And yeah, I mean, like having a place where members of the LGBTQ plus community and, people of color and anybody, we really, we loved having that space, and, we'll always think fondly of that.
Oh yeah, and I think the cool thing for us too, because in the front of our brick and mortar we had a vinyl record shop, and I think introducing younger people to that style of music and the feel, the literal touch of music and the ritual of playing a record and all of those things, I think were extremely special. And, we had a teenage employee who was our first employee who I had a lot of theater friends that would always just hang out at our place. And I loved that. And we don't have children. So I would always say like, oh, my kids, because they were like.
This was the old Instagram. For those of you just listening, I'm pulling up the Instagram account
so
for
if you hear
our
boo-hooing,
business.
that's just me sobbing in the background.
But it was a cool spot. If you're watching, then you can kind of check it out. Yeah.
That's our farewell video. On
or
the
we
right.
made the announcement right here that we were gonna leave.
Right.
But it was a really cool spot.
Yeah, and I feel like we did good things. I really do. Just supporting so many different types of people. of all ages. I mean, I had students pushing 70,
Yeah.
you know, so it was a great spot. And it was so hard to close. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done, is when we locked that door for the last time.
Yeah. But we had to do a lot of things. We got a lot done in the month of December of 2024.
And December was such a great month. And I love the moments with you where like it feels like the world just kind of stops and we're just like singularly focused on one goal.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's been moments where we've like been in a hospital together because
The camera froze.
oh no,
It's okay. It'll gather itself.
it'll catch up. Whether it's like, you know, one of us has been ill or a family member has been ill and we've been in the hospital and it's like time to stand still, or in this case, moving our entire life. We had a house that we owned that we had to sell, and we didn't own our brick and mortar building, but it was like we had two houses that had to pack and to move. And we had like the big moving pods, but because we were also moving in the time between Christmas and New Year's, we had to have everything basically packed up somewhat way ahead of time. So we were essentially camping in our house with like an air mattress
and like
our
one
cats.
pan.
Yeah, and a pan. We ate at Kathy's Kitchen for breakfast.
Shout out to Kathy's
many
Kitchen.
times.
Got to get that Mitchell's Mayhem.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was so much work. And still, when I reflect on it, I don't know how we did it, but somehow we did.
It's one of those things where like you do all the stuff and somehow, you know, now 6 months removed from it, you're like, how the fuck did we do all that?
And I think and again, like so joyous, like we got married. We had a really simple ceremony with Tyler's parents. My whole family lives in Pennsylvania, and we did not want a big to-do, somewhat because of all of the moving things happening and life changes. I can't imagine if we had done a full-blown wedding plus all of that.
Yeah, that would have been a lot.
That would have been stress off the rail. It was already stressful, but I feel like one thing that was not stressful was our wedding day, which I'm really happy about. And it was like our last big thing in our house. So we have amazing photos from Casey there that are really special.
Yeah, we actually got married like in our living room. Let me see if I can find some of that. But yeah, it was great. We just had the photographer,
your parents,
our Mitch
minister.
Yep, Mitch the officiant.
Or officiant. Yeah, officiant's maybe more appropriate than minister.
Yeah.
And Chris.
Yeah.
Casey's boyfriend came to help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so nice. And our cats were there, which again, like it's maybe silly and small, but it was just really nice. It was so stress-free. And I think everything that, you know, with your dad having gotten over being very sick with cancer and being a part of that, I think meant a lot. And just a very simple way. So
yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good day. I wish we could find the picture with Miles, but wherever it is, it's a cute one. Yeah, it's a cute one.
We have a picture with Miles Davis, and it's like the
the family. These are just all ridiculous. And Miles,
to those just listening, we're just kind of going through.
I think it's around here, but yeah, Miles is our first cat. There's Mavis, our firstborn. So we have a photo somewhere holding him like a baby. But it was just a really, really good day. And that was, oh, there it is. Yeah. And that was right around. There we go. Yeah. And that was right around Christmas too. That was a couple weeks before Christmas about. So we had like our first Christmas together as a married couple, which anyone on the fence of marriage, especially if it's not your first marriage, like it was for me, we've been to like a lot of therapy, like just to clarify, like
therapy's good.
We don't just have this like great repartee. Like this is from years of effort and work, and getting clarity for both of us, because it took me years to warm up to the idea of getting married again. And I think for you, a certain level of maturity, like you almost didn't feel old enough to get married.
Yeah, I still don't feel like an adult. I feel like a teenager who just happens to be old. It's weird.
But at the same time, there is something beautiful about marriage. And this is such a stupid example. But when we were in New Jersey for a friend's wedding and we were renting a car and we were putting it in Tyler's name, and I was like, oh, do I need something different? Like if I need to drive the car? And he was like, oh, are you married? Oh yeah, no, you can just drive it then.
Yeah. Spouses get to just drive the rental car.
Yeah, you can just drive the rental car. Like
Girlfriends, not so much.
Yeah, no big deal. Or like health insurance.
Yeah.
And again, maybe seems very small, but just me knowing that, okay, because I'm the one with like the regular quote unquote 9 to 5 job, so we have health insurance through my
Hospital
job. Hospital insurance, unless, which is fantastic. But just knowing that he is okay, like he's gonna be good. And that it just makes me feel better. I don't know. Yeah. It just feels like we're more together than before. And when we've lived so much life together in 7 years. Like we've been through pandemics and literal hurricanes, buying houses, selling houses,
family members getting sick.
Yeah. Owning and tossing a business. We've been through a lot, but there is something about actually being legally bound.
Yeah.
It feels more significant.
Yeah.
It feels more significant.
So we did all this stuff. We ended up here.
So why, and if anyone's curious, why did we land on Nashville and not like LA or New York? Because I feel like those were like maybe 3 places we talked about.
Yeah. So I came out here in May of 2024 to visit my friend, the one and only Hound Brown, and stay with him for a week. And I think we had decided we were going to do something. We were going somewhere at that time. And I was like, if I don't hate Nashville for some reason, that's where we're going. You
were going to, and COVID, of course, ruined this. He was planning to do a tour of sorts in Austin, LA,
I had booked flights and hotels to do some networking trips to Los Angeles, Austin,
and you were going to be in Austin Nashville during South by Southwest too, and it just all crashed and fell to the floor and never happened. And again, this is more of like a relationship part, but I'm not from North Carolina. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so all of my family's in Pennsylvania. So I've had the opportunity to leave home multiple times. I was a traveling therapist. I went away to school in West Virginia. Like I've been away from home, and I've done that for several years. And definitely for me, after getting divorced, deciding to move to North Carolina, I felt like I personally had a lot of mental space where I could discover myself and be my own person. And not that my family's not lovely, they are. But you know, when you have older siblings, your parents, you're influenced in certain ways. Whether it's family or environment or whatever you want to term it as. But you never had that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I went to graduate school in San Francisco, but I had never left North Carolina without the intention of coming back.
Right, because when you were in San Francisco, you'd like be there for like 2 or 3 months over the summer, then you would come back, and you would be back every time.
Yeah.
And I feel like from a growth perspective, that time is important.
Mm-hmm. So I came out and visited Hound and, visited the friends that I have ultimately ended up like performing with out here. And I went to a writer's round the Saturday before I was flying back. And there was like a younger guy named Randall Fowler, who's a really killer singer-songwriter. And he played these great songs that were super inspiring. I think he had just signed his publishing deal at the time. And like, I don't know, all the writers were it was incredible. And that was like, I was like, this is happening at like 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon.
Right. It wasn't some like big event. It was just like, duh.
Yeah. At 3rd and Lindsley. And so I just realized that I needed to be around that. Even if it took a while for me to do bigger things, I just needed to be in an environment where that kind of thing goes down on a regular basis. So,
and initially I feel like it was hard for me because I was not unhappy doing what we were doing. I was unhappy in the way that like my medical jobs had been long-term very unsatisfying, which is why I got into private vocal and singing coaching in the first place, is because I wanted to do something that used my degree because that's where my brain power is and that's where my mind goes. But at the same time, I do have this strong musical sensibility as well. And I just love the idea of the freedom of combining those two concepts. And I had a roster at my highest of like 40 private paying clients. And so it was great, but in my heart of hearts, simultaneously, it also wasn't working financially because of the overhead of our business. And even when we jacked up prices by like 40%, because definitely owning a business is a learning process. And we started our pricing way too low. Like we just didn't even have a concept or idea of how much we should have charged. And it was way too low.
Yeah, but like to kind of round that up, we really loved having the business, but it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't even matter the scale. If you have a brick and mortar business where you're responsible for every dime that comes in and out, all the cash flows up to you. You have to create the income. It takes up your entire life. You don't have any time to really travel. It has to be tended to because...
And we were doing other work. It was like brick and mortar business, my therapy job, your gigs.
My gigs, yeah.
It was so much work.
And all of it is just all the time. And so being here, we have the flexibility. Like if we needed to go out of town, like we were in my friend Steve's wedding a couple weeks ago and we could just go.
Yeah, we could just go and it was nice. And when you came out to Nashville last May and I told him, because one thing that we do really well is support each other. And I did not want to have him stay in North Carolina for me because it was the concept of, oh my God, how do I leave all of my students? I love teaching them. I love what I do here. However, simultaneously, it's very hard. And it is all of my time and all of my life.
And you didn't like the environment in your part-time nursing home position either. That we needed financially
needed, to keep things afloat. But working in an otherwise very negative medical field environment was weighing on me and had weighed on me for over a decade. And I told him, okay, if you don't hate it, we're going to go.
Yeah.
and he
so
came back and he was like, I didn't hate it.
Yeah. So, and we honestly love it. There are good days and bad days, and the music industry is a roller coaster ride emotionally. But I want to give you a chance to talk about let's talk about what your job is out here, your therapy job here versus what it was, well, for the other part of your career up until now.
Yeah.
And what are you liking and how is it different?
Yeah. My toxic trait is I have a tendency to assume that things can never get better. And for years he was like, well, just why don't you try to work at a hospital, or why don't you try to do this, or why don't you try to do that? And I did that a little bit. I had switched to pediatric therapy for a little bit, just to try something different. And that was not my jam. And the company that I was working for was no better. And when we came out in November of 2024 to kind of house hunt, I had a couple of job interviews, and I had a job interview at a hospital, and I was beyond intimidated because I'm like, all I've ever really done is nursing home. I'm not going to be qualified. And every story was playing in my head. And truly the therapy that I'm doing now is largely similar to all of the therapy I've done before, except it's a nice hospital. So they have all of the gadgets and the imaging, and they actually care. So that's been nice. And when I went on that interview, I was in there for 2 hours, and he had dropped me off and was waiting in the car. And he's like, did they murder her? Where is she?
Yeah.
So
I was like, well, this is obviously going well.
Right.
Because it'd be a real dick move for them to keep you there for 2.5 hours and make you nearly miss your next interview and not offer you the job.
Right. And in my head too, I'm like, oh, hospital jobs, you never make as much as you do in the nursing homes. And I just had a whole script in my head that I had already decided no, it could just never be. I had pretty much written off therapy jobs as being anything but absolute trash. And I speak very to the point. Any speech therapist or PTOT listening is probably oh my God, I feel you preach. But at this hospital, it's sincerely very different. The productivity rating is so much lower. The quality of what we can provide for the patients. And maybe I see, because we see people typically for an hour a day, which is 2 30-minute sessions. So I work 4 10s as well. So out of my 10-hour day, I maybe see like 8 patients.
Compared to,
Oh God, I mean 15 in the nursing home, like depending upon how busy you were, and you just don't feel like you're doing anything effective.
and you were doing that in 6 hours.
Yeah, 6 7, and then I would see all of my students from 3 o'clock 3:30 until 7 8 o'clock at night after that.
So now you have the 4 10-hour shifts. And so you're getting your 40 hours in
Yeah,
just over 4 days. And then you have the 3 days
to do my other work, to do my coaching,
to do your coaching, and
Like-
to just have a life.
right? Content creation. Like I'm getting coffee with someone tomorrow. I feel so luxurious. Like we got breakfast this morning. We're like, oh, this is amazing. And for me, because my mother's a musician, you're a musician, I'm very used to irregular schedules. And I work Friday to Monday, which for most people, they're like, oh my God, my weekend, blah, that sounds terrible. But it is amazing. And I had some health issues the past weekend, and I had to call out of work Saturday. And when we left urgent care, we were like, well, let's go get a cup of coffee and like a sandwich, right? And everything was just crowded. Like I haven't been to a place on like a Saturday afternoon in a while. It sucked. Everything,
Yeah, it's pretty rough,
everywhere
especially
was crowded.
especially in like
A good city where people want to be. Like
Yeah.
everything is crowded. So we can go to like breakfast on a Tuesday, instant table. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I can do like appointments and I don't have to take special time off for work. And I can see my people Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays for my private coaching.
Yeah, dude.
It's great.
Costco at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Sold.
So much better than at
Sold.
11 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah, anyone who's like, oh, my coveted Monday through Friday schedule. Now, of course, we don't have kids. You have an irregular schedule. So for our lifestyle, it works great. For other people, that may be a nightmare. I
But
don't know.
for young people, let that be a lesson. Like, if you
And you make more money working a weekend schedule.
Yeah, they pay you more, and you like can go do stuff when everyone else isn't, and so it's more peaceful.
And the thing is too, like I've wrestled this with myself a lot. Now he is not necessarily a job person, and let me explain that, because it's not that you don't work. You work every day. You do. But our function is very different. And I grew up in a very structured household. Like, yeah, my mom was a musician, but she still had like a full-time job as a musician working in a church. And my dad was a warehouseman, like I won't even say 9 to 5. He would literally get up at 2 a.m. and always work overtime. And he might get home around 3 or 4, which is also why I tend to eat dinner so early, in case you were wondering, is because of that. Because we would eat dinner at like 3:30 was our meal on a Monday. But that structure for me, I've learned is important, and financial security in that way that I know where money is coming from is also important. And that is something I struggle with. So I don't know at what point we've got to be like balling for me to not have a full-time job, because I am also worthless without a full-time. Like I won't get up. Like my self-motivation to drive is poor. But when I know people are depending on me, like it's different.
Yeah, I feel like I do a little bit better with coming up with things to do
Than me.
when I don't have a regimen, and you really need a regimen. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's complimentary.
I've had to talk to ChatGPT several times to be like, why am I this way? Because I live and die by ChatGPT now. But I've learned that it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I also need both. If I only had a full-time job, I would also probably be insane, because I also enjoy the autonomy and the creativity of doing my own thing and working with clients that I really value and they really value me. And it's not that people that I work with in the hospital don't, but they don't want to be there for the most part. And I have, on average, my patients are excellent. They truly are, because you have to qualify up to like a certain point to go into inpatient rehab and intensive therapy. And those patients tend to be more motivated. But in a coaching situation, people are hiring you because they've found you and they're seeking you out. They don't just happen to be there. They're seeking you out. But when it comes to like content creation, course creation, things that I know I need to do, that's where I need you to like get on me and be like, you need to do this. And we did this last week where we literally on a whiteboard wrote down deadlines and goals for the things that I need to do, because I will pussyfoot like nobody's business. And I told Tyler, I was like, this is so uncomfortable for me, because he's like, why aren't you doing this? Why haven't you done this? And calling me into question. I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I think people end up staying in relationships, jobs, cities, all just for the sake of comfort or the fear of change. And sometimes you need someone in your life who will call you out and tell you that you can and believe that you can do better for yourself and encourage you to do so.
I think a big thing just relationally between the two of us is we genuinely just like each other so much. And we have great conversations, I think, at least. Maybe you disagree, on a nearly daily basis. And even in doing this podcast, we've said this a million times, we should do a podcast, because we get in a flow of a conversation and man, it's just great. Like I get so much from it. You're literally my favorite person to talk to. And we could talk, I know, and we could talk for like hours a day. And I'm not just trying to put it on for the sake of this podcast. Like I truly just enjoy being with you every day.
We were frozen oddly for a second.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. We do actually enjoy
but we're always
each other's company.
And we're always rooting for each other.
And I think like there are a lot of couples that just end up not liking each other. They don't actively, it's not that they dislike each other, but it's like they don't actively like each other. Yeah.
And I think that's a difficult concept, because you can care a lot about someone, and I really cared about my ex-spouse. It's not that I didn't want him to be well, but there's rarely a time where I'm like, I don't like you. I always like you. And I think that we're always rooting for each other to do well, because I think at times couples do kind of get weirdly competitive. And I don't know why. Like that's almost like an oxymoron. You're coupling with someone to then be completely competitive with them.
Yeah.
But I think we both do a good job of pointing out each other's strengths, which we both need at times, because we do scary work. Like on a regular basis, you and I are uncomfortable, and we put ourselves in situations where we're like,
yeah.
But those are the situations you need to be in to get to the next level. And we know that.
Yeah. So getting back to me. When I got out here, I had a gig lined up on Lower Broadway, which if you're not familiar with Nashville, is where basically all the tourists go to hang out and day drink, and you get, bachelorette parties and
lots of mini
girls
skirts and cowboy boots.
Yeah. And then,
it's horrible
guys
for him.
and guys chasing those girls. But the gig was, a 6 to 10 shift every Monday. And I felt like that was going really well. The guys that I was playing with are really, really killer. But, so that's the good. But then like the bad is as soon as we landed from my friend's wedding, I took my phone off of airplane mode, and the person who booked us for that gig was like, I couldn't get in touch with the other guys, but we're going to give your slot to another band for the month of May. And I was like, that was my one like super regular gig. Now I've been playing a ton of songwriters rounds. Those don't pay a ton of money. Just FYI, if anything, you get a lot of exposure.
That's been a difficult thing, I will say, because in North Carolina, like that was your job,
Yeah.
and you would make good money doing that. And here, it's musicians aplenty. Good, not all good, but many good musicians aplenty, and they ain't always paying
Yeah.
because there's just so many.
Yeah. But I also kind of expected that. I didn't expect to lose the one gig that I had so soon.
Especially because it was to no fault of your own.
Yeah, I asked the person. I was like, "Look, what
did we do?"
What? Because we don't really drink on stage,
Yeah.
almost at all.
Yeah. No.
I don't drink on stage anyway. You know, we will,
And really, none of you do.
we'll chug a non-alcoholic beer
An NA Corona.
during the guitar solo of Freebird because it's entertaining.
For tips.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, we show up on time. We always have a strong set. All the musicians are killer. But I think it just, the business side of it is it comes down to the bottom line, I think, I'm not saying that this is what happened, but I'm saying it is possible that what they did is they hired another younger, possibly, band who would play for a little bit less bass pay than we were getting. I don't know that. I cannot confirm or deny that, but I think that kind of thing happens here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just part of it. So, I joined the Nashville Songwriters Association International about a month ago now, and I've been to some of their pitch events where you get to play a verse and a chorus of a song to an industry professional. And I don't know, it's a way of meeting new people, finding a network of folks to collaborate with. I've been doing some co-writes that I've really enjoyed and I think have been fruitful. We've come up with some pretty good stuff. And that's kind of the whole part of it. Everyone that I've spoken to, everyone that I continue to talk to about this, and everyone that I spoke to before we moved was like, the first year to a year and a half when you move to Nashville is absolutely brutal and is a huge roller coaster. But
check.
Yeah. But my bro Max Morata, he's like, dude, you're going to be thriving in like a year and a half. And I was like, I'm going to trust you, bro. I'm going to trust the process. And I think that's what we have to do is just, keep going out to industry events. Like just last night, we went to this really cool like listening party at a studio about 10 minutes from us. My friend Elizabeth B is one of those things where it's through the app Partiful, where like someone creates an event, they invite people, and then once you get the invite, you can also forward the invite link to your friends. And so she forwarded that to me, and we all went, and it was so cool. There was like, I want to say
like 20
artists / producers / singer songwriters
and me who had no business being there, it seemed like.
But it was just a listening party where we played either like master level cuts where like this song's about to go out or it was out, all the way down to really unpolished like voice memos on your phone of songs in various degrees of completion.
Mm-hmm.
And we listened. If the people wanted feedback, we gave it to them. Some people just wanted an encouraging voice. Yeah. And it was beautiful. It was really, really cool. There was such a drastic variety of genres, from like rock to like pop, like just all kinds of, I don't know. It was great. The vibe was good.
I think, and one thing in moving here, because we did have such a strong community in North Carolina, and I've been a little sad at times here, if I'm being honest, because I feel like I had such a tight-knit group of folks, and I'm sure you did too. But now that we are more settled and getting out more, because it's been hard for me to feel like, okay, well, and when you're an adult, it's weird because you're like, where do you go to meet people? And you're looking for these networking events. But now that we are starting to do that more and do it more together too. And it's the same principle of how I did things when I moved to North Carolina. If there was an event and I was trying to, get my name out as a voice coach, I just went. And there were nights where I was like, I don't feel like going to this freaking thing, but I know I need to. And I was always glad that I did. And even if it was kind of a bust, it was never a bust totally, because there was usually one new person I met, or it was, a great opportunity to take a picture and put it on your Instagram, or, whatever the hell it was. But the conversations we have here are just different. And it's not that we didn't have people to have those conversations with in North Carolina, but the sheer quantity. And I can't name names because it would be a HIPAA violation, but even some of the patients that I have at the hospital who are like fairly big names in music. Yeah. And I'm like, did I really just meet that person? And it's just different. You meet a different caliber of person more often.
Well,
because you have to have like big picture ideals to move here.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people trying to find their way, and the thing that we've both noticed about this place is that everyone you talk to, for the most part, is very open,
very gracious,
and kind. They
really are.
Not pretentious.
No.
For the vast majority of people are so laid back because you're in it. Back in North Carolina, not that it was ever like a nasty thing or whatever, but I feel like the kind of like hierarchical perception of people's place in the local music scene let people be asshole-ish at times about like,
tell me how you really feel
about like who deserves what gig, who deserves all that. Well, but here it doesn't matter where you are on the totem pole, so to speak. Like, you can perceive yourself to be at a certain place in your career trajectory and meet someone that you perceive to be not as far along. But then 2 weeks later, they're signed with Sony. and or they had a massive like viral moment.
Yeah.
And now that could have been the most important person in your life. Now what's funny is like that phenomenon is true everywhere.
Right.
But it's just more top of mind in an industry town where like people are less likely to talk shit about an artist.
Because even if you're talking about like a major celebrity, which I almost had a moment like this yesterday, and even if it's like a major celebrity, you are in a town where people might literally be friends with that major celebrity.
Yeah, or their manager.
You need to shut the hell up.
Or or their tour manager, right. Or their cousin.
Yeah.
And so
it's weird.
You're in line at the grocery store, it doesn't matter what you think about whatever artist, you don't talk about it,
right?
Unless and like, even when you have an established rapport with like someone, you still tread very lightly on any kind of negative speak. Now, that's how we all should be.
I know.
All of the time.
I was just gonna say, isn't that just good manners anyway? And I was at work the other day, and not just work people that I know, it's anybody. When I'm talking to someone that has a tendency to just talk shit about so many people, in the back of my head, I'm always going, geez, what do you say about me?
Yeah.
Shit. Like, oh, I'm the one person you don't talk shit about? I've really tried to get more into the habit, because it is tempting. Like, someone pisses you off and you just want to go on a fucking rampage. It's tempting, but it's a good reminder and lesson to be like, yeah, generally speaking, let's just be kinder because it's good for the population.
Yeah. But here, people just tend to do that naturally for the most part, out of, the knowledge that you could be talking to someone who is going to end up being the most important person in your life and in your career, and you don't know.
But generally speaking, too, we've found people here seem just a little bit happier.
Yeah.
Not that everyone in North Carolina is sad, but I feel like people here are very much in a big picture mode of striving forward. And I feel like with that comes a different attitude. I feel like you have to be happy within yourself. And I know personally for me, that took a long time. And whatever your, religious walk, if it's God, universe, whatever terms we're using, it doesn't matter. But I truly feel that if you want to do better and earn more, get more opportunities, whatever the thing is, you really have to be happy with where you are today before you're going to be gifted anything else. And I feel like a lot of people here seem to just know that, because we'll be at Costco and the employees are just happy as shit. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like when we visited in November and we got a French dip sandwich at a place that is now tragically closed.
They closed like
we are still,
a week after, like a week before we moved here.
We are still chasing this French dip sandwich, and we've not found
Wasn't it
a
called
better
Eastwood Deli?
Mm-hmm. And we've still not found a better one since, which is depressing. But the guy probably making minimum wage was like, you found your best sandwich? Like, he was so excited.
Did we do it?
Yeah.
Did we give you your sandwich?
That we had an amazing sandwich, and now we are forever chasing that sandwich. It's true. But yeah, it's just different. It's different vibes. It's different vibes here in Nashville for sure. And even in just our house, like when we moved, we made a really intentional choice about where we live. And when you're moving, there's so many pieces that have to happen. And at the point that I had gotten this job, because we'd been looking for months for places to live, and we knew we wanted to rent. One, housing in Nashville can be expensive, and financially the numbers just crunched better if we rented versus purchasing. And we knew where we wanted to be based on neighborhoods, but also the job that I got at the time, which we live about 10 minutes away from the hospital where I work. And the location was great, but we wanted to make a good move. I didn't want to move all the way to Nashville to live in a dump. And at pushing 40, I'm like, I'm really kind of over like sharing a house with roommates. You when you're married and you've owned a house and you have a life and you have many things and equipment. But when we looked at houses, and we didn't look at this specific house, but we looked at its like sister house, which is identical but just mirrored across the street. And when we walked in, I was like, "This house, I can't live here. This house is too fucking nice. Like, this is ridiculous." And it's not like we live in a mansion, but it's like a fairly new within the last couple of years. I won't list the price of the house, but it's like the nicest house we've ever lived in. But I wanted to come here with a different mindset of, yes, we can live in a nice house and feel like we've worked hard enough to earn that. And just all of the things that come with that. It all just feels very different.
Yeah. And the food is good here.
And the
we do like
food's
the food.
good.
We like the food.
The food's great. Yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant that we've been to
that
so far?
Indian place that we go to, which I don't remember the name of it. That Max. But so his friend Max has great food choices.
Yeah. What was that place?
I do not remember. Dose is amazing though. We went there this morning.
That's where we had breakfast. It's in East Nashville.
A friend from Pittsburgh, Danielle, her husband is a guitarist out here for a band, and we met up at Dose, which is the jam on the biscuits. See, now it is sounding like delicious dish. But yeah, Dose is amazing. Lavender coffee. We like Sips.
Sips Cafe?
Yeah, Sips Cafe for coffee is pretty amazing.
I was trying to find
what's the pizza place I love?
Emmy Square.
Emmy Square.
It's Detroit style pizza.
So I get mildly disappointed, well, for a couple of reasons, that Tyler doesn't have that Monday gig, but Monday was like my secret single time. And you can also get DoorDash in Nashville, which is amazing because where we live,
you can pay 30% more because you want to be lazy.
I didn't have to drive there. That's all that counts. And in North Carolina where we lived, we was kind of like in the country. So the only place that we could get DoorDashed or like delivered was like Domino's. I think we got Chili's one time. We were on like an
Yeah.
office kick and we wanted to order Chili's. But other than that, but my secret single time on Monday nights when Tyler would be at his gig at downtown would be ordering an Emmy squared pizza. And that was just fun because it's so good.
Yeah, I liked Il Forno, the Italian place that we went to like a week and a half into being here.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Can't eat there all the time though, because I will be fat as shit.
Yeah, we've been working with a nutritionist for the last several years, Miranda, out in Colorado, who's amazing. And so we don't do any gluten or dairy, which was also, and a lot of magnesium, which I think is also partly responsible for our very much better mental health.
Yeah.
We've just done a lot of cleaning up, and it's not that we were like listing restaurants. It's not like we never go out to eat and we don't have like fun foods that we want and things like that. But alcohol for me at this point, for sure. I wear an Oura ring and it gives you like your cardiovascular age, which I'm currently actually 11 years younger than my actual age.
Sure, because that's totally scientifically accurate.
It is. I don't know if my neck matches that, but yeah.
Whatever feels good.
It makes me feel good. But when we had gone to that wedding in New Jersey, and I have not had anything to drink in like a year and a half. And I only had, it's not like I got super shitty. I had like 3 glasses of wine. But with the travel and all of the rich foods, and I wanted to die when we got back and lost like 6 months off of my cardiovascular age. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
From that weekend of gluten, dairy, and booze.
I had not had alcohol.
Oh God, you felt
really
it's rough
until Steve's bachelor party. So back in March, and we went to Florida.
You got the skull face in your whoop.
Yeah, so it was the first time I've been wearing a whoop for like a couple years. And it was the first time I think I got
bad.
I don't know if it was like 1%. It was
recovery.
Like, it's like
bad.
The lowest recovery score that you can get.
It was bad.
And it had like a skull and crossbones. And it was like, yeah, you need to like lay down today.
Yeah, you for days actually.
But I drank that weekend. It was a bachelor party. We went out. Everything was very safe. We took Ubers and all that stuff. We didn't go. There were no strip clubs or anything or strippers. It was, Steve just got a lap dance from this like 68-year-old woman. It was not an enthusiastic one either. And his younger brother,
half-hearted lap dance from his elder woman.
His younger brother wouldn't even look. It was great. It was magical. But anyway, so I drank, felt like shit. Then continued to take, not drink when we got back. We went to the wedding. It was an open bar. I mean, the first night, actually, the rehearsal dinner, I think I was
You did worse there.
I drank a lot.
I think we both drank more that night, and
I drank too much of a variety of things as well.
And when I thought back about it, as I'm like crying to their minister about the concept of religion over my white wine, I feel like the alcohol
Shout
did
out
have
to
some.
Anthony.
Yeah, I feel for amusing me for 3 hours. I feel like the white wine had something to do with that because I don't normally behave that way as I think about it. But
you might have been a little bit more.
Might have been a little bit more emotional than normal.
More talky.
A little bit more talky, a little bit more cry. But at the same time, when we got back, not drinking for so long, and we're sitting with, poppy sodas right now. I think sometimes, and I've talked to Miranda, our nutritionist, about this. I know, shout out to Poppy, not a sponsor, but if you'd like to be.
Yeah.
There are opportunities. But yeah, I think sometimes it's just you want something other than water. And you want like a fancy glass and you want something that like makes you feel like a grown up. It's not even the alcohol. I think sometimes you just want that. And yeah, like when you're young and you're like, oh, letting go of your inhibitions and it feels like an escape. And, when I have students that are like, oh, if I sing in public, I've got to be like drunk. I'm like, well, that's not
but like
good.
I think that, but like the key word that you just used is escape, I think.
Yeah, we have to have an escape. And when you stop escaping from life and you're just present in life, it feels very different, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes it sucks.
It does.
But if it sucks, then you should strive to change the things that suck, that make you feel shitty, and not cover it up with something. And like people cover it up with like all kinds of stuff, man. It's not just alcohol.
It's not alcohol. It could be weed. It could be food. It
Or
can be
Netflix.
sex. Or Netflix, yeah.
Like-
Facebook scrolling.
Yeah.
And that's, despite all of the social media posting that I do, which I'm which I'm never good enough at anyway. I actually don't even keep social media apps on my phone anymore. I might like put them on for a minute to like upload something or like respond to things, but then I immediately delete them again because even just the doom scrolling, it's just so bad.
I'm bad about that.
It's so bad on my mental health. And yeah, it's not good, man. It's not good. We're just always looking for an escape versus just being ever present in our life. And when you're present, though, I feel like I have the most amazing connections with people. Mm-hmm. I feel more connected with you. I feel more connected with my patients and my private coaching clients. I just feel so much more present. And truly, like, we have this weird lens into everybody's lives now. And my mom was saying this the other day, like, oh, I like Facebook because I can check in with people that I don't normally talk to. While simultaneously, if I'm not normally talking to someone, why do I need to keep up with their every knowing, like their every waking moment of their highlight reel? Because it does get overwhelming and it is a lot of highlight reels. And from my perspective as a therapist, like I'm dealing with people in really heavy moments of their life anyway. And I'm on so much that if I have to be on in my private life at home and I'm checking in on everyone's lives, even when I'm not with them, it becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. But, so yeah, I think we're back on the not drinking.
And I don't even miss it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't feel
I think
like
if we ever go to Europe, I have to have like a glass of wine and like a nice, But like, I don't miss it when I go out. Almost all the bars now have like good NA options. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you don't have to just get like a Shirley Temple.
Yeah,
or a Coke. Those used to be the options, and then you felt stupid. But now it's a little.
You can get
bit
something
more,
that kind of looks like a beer.
Yeah, it's a little bit more sophisticated for sure. Or the what is it, like THC?
Yeah, they have
infused.
THC stuff, CBD stuff,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool. But yeah, so like, we're enjoying it. I think it's
I think we're enjoying it.
No, I was going to say I think it's just a matter of continuing to network, and there's so many great like local venues and stuff. Like it's so cool seeing your friends do cool shit.
Yeah.
So and I'm going to be having some of them on the pod. So I think let's talk about like what we're going to do moving forward. So
sure.
If you have not already, like, follow the pod here. I think we're going to have like Instagram, and we're going to have a YouTube channel, and we're going to be streaming live on Twitch for now.
It'd be nice to do this weekly for sure. And I love talking to you, but we also want to have other guests, whether you're talking to someone or I'm talking to someone, maybe, us together talking to someone if the mood strikes us. But yeah, I just love this concept of open and honest conversation, and not about technical things in the music industry.
We might get technical.
Maybe.
Depends on who's on. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But it's, and I think there's, for all of the things that we do, and even the things that I tend to talk about on my personal pages about voice instruction, I feel like I get more traction, and I feel like it's more meaningful when I talk about things that aren't just technique.
Yeah.
Like the confidence things that I bring up and my confidence courses that I've made. Those to me have the most value, because it's things that like I wish that I would have had access to. Mm-hmm. Like the concept of, how do you be confident within music? That wasn't a thing.
Yeah, well,
when I was learning music.
There's a million YouTube channels with people who are significantly more qualified than we are covering everything. But what I think what you have to try to offer is just like what your unique lived experience brings to the table.
Because no one can ever take that from you.
So
you can't deny your story.
Your technical know-how isn't everything. You know, it is something, but it's
Right.
not everything. So I think you'll have a variety of guests coming from a
More empathetic,
well,
softer view.
but from different backgrounds, you know?
Yeah. I would love, yeah, and I would love to have other therapists on, because I think all the therapists that I know, I'm having coffee with someone tomorrow who has more of like a theater dance background, and she's a physical therapy assistant. You know, and I know an OT who's a opera singer. And one of my best friends in North Carolina, Jess, who's an OT, is a yoga instructor. Like, I just feel like there's so many interesting things. And she's one person I talk to a lot about, like breath work, and just different functions of the body. And I'm learning so much more about like manual therapy for the voice. And I love talking to PTs about that, and seeing who in like the music world, those types of things can benefit. It's just different ways of thinking about things, for sure.
Yeah. Right on. And I've got tons of friends that I want to have on here. I want to have, you know, the folks that I've known for like, you know, 10 years
Yeah.
that have been out here for a while on. And, you know, I want to have people on that we meet and share what life in the music industry and in Nashville specifically is like, from a variety of career trajectories and paths, right? So we're all doing what we can. I love that we went with the good, the bad, and the music, because I know that it's all going to be music adjacent, but like you said, we want to have real conversations where we all present ourselves and curate the content that we put out. But I think the most important moments that I've shared with people in terms of growth come from having those really candid, difficult, but inspiring conversations about the struggles that come along with taking the creative path in life.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like it's really honest conversations, and I want to normalize like actual number money conversations between women, because I feel like there's so many pieces that we tiptoe around and just all these somewhat awkward things that we don't like to talk about. But when we do, it helps all of us progress forward. Like, if we can honestly sit and tell our story, because I think sometimes you look at people in a position ahead of you, and there's always someone ahead of you, there's always someone behind you, right? And so anyone who's, you know, quote unquote behind us right now in the journey of getting to where they want to be, none of what we have done has been easy at all. And sometimes I look up and it's funny, because there's still so many things that I know we want to do or that we can do. And I don't know how we made it sometimes through all of it. But it does take time and a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of effort and a lot of like roll of the dice. And I say this all the time. I don't think that either of us would necessarily be in the same exact spot without the other one, because I feel like I kind of like keep you stable, but you push me out of my box, because otherwise I would just live there like poking out of the box, like looking around like this. And you're the person that's like, get out of the fucking box. And you just like shove my ass out.
Yeah. And you're the one who's like, we need money.
Yeah. We're like, you need to go to the dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have money for it now, you know, all both things can be true. Like you can be like a super artsy person, but also have like the stable side of you at the same time. And I feel like we have a nice mix of both between the two of us, luckily.
Yeah. Well, like I said, y'all, I think that's, what do you think? Do you think that's good for a first episode?
That's good. I think we did good. We've been rapping for like an hour and 20 minutes so far.
Yeah.
We probably need to eat some dinner.
Yeah. If y'all listen to this whole hour and 20 minutes, that'd be fucking nuts. Yeah. But that's cool. But there's going to be a lot more to come. And
do we have outro music? We have intro music. Do we have outro music?
I'll play the same.
It's all very exciting.
Yeah.
I look forward to being embarrassed about this in like a year from now.
Oh, this is, yeah, that first episode, bro.
Nice.
It's going to be bad.
It's great though.
Thank you for listening to the Good, the Bad, and the Music podcast with T. Davis and
Bree Warwick.
stay tuned for more stories about the journey of life in the music industry as a creative, all that jazz. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Yeah.